Hello Mixology hackers, welcome back to the channel, and apologies for missing a week again, but post a comment or in the community tab a question: should I keep doing 2 videos a month or should I go to 4 videos a month? And so far the big percentage is saying to go 4 videos a month. Now I know not many of you replied to the question, but even those who reply, it's enough for me to consider and try to adjust my schedule and make 4 videos per month. Now, I will try my best. It may not start straight away, but definitely I'll try my best from September to start with 4 videos per month while I'm gathering the material for it. Obviously, we're gonna keep going with some content, and today it's no exception. As you've seen the title, we are using melons today. So the first melon which I'm using today is the Galia melon, as people know it, or it's basically a cross between Cantaloupe and Honeydew melon. So some stores may even put a label on it as a Honeydew, but it's a cross, and it's a lovely little melon which, if you like melons, you know it's inside. It's fantastic lime green color, which is bringing beautiful color to the syrups which we're gonna do today. And of course I'm gonna leave some on the side to make the melon foam as well, because this one produced fantastic foam, so we're gonna use the Galia melon. So the other melon, it's that's a Honeydew, or some people know it as a Canary melon. It's a yellow, really nice yellow color outside, usually smooth skin, but sometimes you have like this texture on it, of course. And finally, a watermelon. You don't need to look for a seedless one, because the way how we're gonna do the syrups, we will strain and discard the seeds after. So it's absolutely no problem if you don't find seedless watermelon. One way to choose the watermelon is, first of all, knock a little bit on the top. You can hear how it's like a the sound is like it's empty inside, but it's not, obviously. That means it's really nice and ripe. And also another things to look, it's this kind of a yellow spot here on the watermelon, which usually it's telling you that it's pretty much ready to be consumed and it's nice ripeness. Okay, so that's our ingredients today. Plus obviously we have the sugar, we have some ascorbic acid, and pretty much this is it. When it comes to the foam, we'll talk for this separately, but for now we're gonna start with the syrups. And as always, I'm gonna try to give you a kind of a rundown of all the equipment you may need in advance before I start making everything. So you're gonna need some bowls like that, different sizes. They don't need to be metal, they could be glass, plastic, anything you have at home, but I do prefer the stainless steel because they kind of stay nice and clean. You will need 1 or 2 jugs like that, again plastic or glass, anything what you prefer. You're gonna need a few variation of sieves, like a fine sieve, something like that, big one, because obviously we're gonna have to remove the fruit from the liquid, so we need to separate it. And you may need a small one like this when we're bottling. Okay, then you're gonna need a funnel, which obviously you do. You're gonna need a knife to cut everything. You're gonna need a cutting board. So you need a blender. In my case, I'm using this one, which is the Ninja blender. So the motor is on the top, and this is basically like the tin, which is so easy because you can remove the motor and you can just use straight away the tin. Whatever blender you have, it will do the job, okay? Don't worry about it. You will need one of those. That's a vacuum sealer, so you need one if you have in your house, because we're gonna use Sous, and we have to vacuum some of the ingredients. And just to show you, here is the Galia melon already done yesterday, just to show you what is gonna be the final result. Okay, so you need, because I said Sous, you're gonna need one of those water bath, or of course, if you have just a big pot which is deep enough so you can put your Sous inside, which is here. I'm using this one. There you go. So let's see if this is gonna focus for you. I don't think it will. Yeah, that's what I'm using. So it doesn't matter what you use. Just make sure you have the sous vide ready if you want. Now, for all of you who doesn't have the sous vide, you can still kind of create this kind of effect in a zip box on the stove in a very low heat, but make sure you can kind of check the temperature time to time and don't go boiling, just leave it to simmer slowly, because what we're doing basically is we're cooking the melons with the sugar without adding any water. So the sugar is gonna melt and it's gonna extract all the juice from the melon, and you're gonna have a pure syrup without any water added. It'll be absolutely fantastic, and of course it will have a longer shelf life because there's no water involved inside. Pretty much I'm gonna forget something. Yes, we need a micro scale, and you need another scale which I left in my kitchen. I'll go and get it. But this is where we need, so we can measure the fruit and decide how much sugar against the fruit we can put and get everything ready to start making the syrups. I did a little adjustment to my setup and I hope you're gonna like it because we have a top view now. Look at that, so good, and it's so fantastic because I like top view. You can see everything, and of course I have a big screen in front of me so I can see what I'm doing instead of just trying to figure out, are you seeing enough what is coming from the front. So let's start. First we're gonna start with the Galia, and we're just gonna cut in half. There you go. Look at that lovely yellow and kind of a lime-ish color. So what we need, we are going to use the first half of the melon for the syrup, which is going to be made in the sous vide, and the second half we're going to use made with a blender. So why I'm saying blender, because that's where I'm going to filtrate some melon water to make the foam. Okay, but let's start with the syrups first. All you need is to take out the seeds with a spoon, nice and easy, like that. Simple, and then clean the other one as well. So I know you can do these things and I know you're doing it, but I always gonna mention on this channel there's no rush. Everything needs to be step by step, because I always assume that out there always gonna be one of you who never probably did that, and that's nothing wrong with it because it's always learning time. Okay, there's never anything to be ashamed of if you've never done it and you're learning it for the first time. So let's get our canary or a honeydew melon. Now this one, I wish I could have found a more ripe, because it's a bit harder, but still it's gonna deliver a good syrup and a good quality. Okay, so from this one, because we're not gonna do any foam from this, we're gonna use the Galia melon for the foam. I'll be using just half of this melon, so I'm gonna clean half of it just for the syrup. But again, I'm gonna juice the other half. However, I'm juicing it for a video which is gonna be coming up video, where we're gonna make some homemade sodas, and I have prepared for you a few videos which is going to be how to make a ginger beer at home, how to make a pink grapefruit and a fennel seeds soda so you can make wonderful palomas, and we are going to make melon and watermelon soda as well, but that's in a future episode. So when I water down this half of the melon and I filtrate it to be nice and clean, this is going to go in the freezer straight away to be ready for filming the next episode, which is gonna be on sodas and ginger beer and all this kind of stuff, fizzy goodness, fermentation, and all these wonderful things. As you can see, both melons side to side now, they're really nice. You can see the yellow and the greenish color of both of them. So that's the difference. Obviously, there is a little difference in the taste because this is kind of a cross and this is pure honeydew melon or canary melon or whatever you want to call it, really. It's just use melon, whatever you like. Now, before I go to the watermelon, I'm gonna cut this in pieces. So what you're gonna do is basically cut it nicely like that so it's easy for you to clean up. Turn it around. Make sure you have a nice sharp knife, because all you want is to have a bad knife and really doesn't help. Now depends how big is your melon. Try to cut the pieces not very thick or big enough, because we have to peel it and it's going to be easy when the melon it's kind of this size around, okay? So I'm just going to put it on the side here, get everything ready. Let's get the other one as well. So, different ways to cut it, depends how you feel more comfortable. Just make sure you don't cut your fingers, okay? Make sure you're doing nice and safe job. That's very important. So exactly the same procedure with the other one, so we're just gonna skip to the point when it's absolutely ready, okay? Okay, everything is ready. Look at them, they're perfectly ready. So as I mentioned, it's time to turn on your sous vide so you can reach the temperature which we need, which is 60 degrees Celsius. I will put it down here how much it's in Fahrenheit, because I'm bad with the math in these things. Now what we need to do is, like I said earlier, grab some of these pots so you have ready. We need half of this melon, both of them, to go in pieces so they can go in the sous vide, okay? So I'm gonna get 2 different cups, and what you need to do is basically just follow the peel. Don't try to get too much of the green. Depends how ripe it's your melon. Obviously you can go completely down to the skin, but of course if it's not ripe enough, don't put too much of the green, yeah? Just make your own judgment when you're using the melon. And of course, again, please do me a favor, watch your fingers, okay? If you're not comfortable, you can go against like that, against the board. But if you're comfortable of peeling melon like that, just don't rush. Get really comfortable and really slowly, because it's not pleasant to have an accident and you don't want to have that, okay? When it's ready like that, just cut in pieces. You need around like a 2.5–3 centimeter pieces, because this is going to go in the sous vide, but also you want to help when the sugar is inside to cook really nicely and extract as much of the water from the melon as possible. So if you leave a big pieces, you may lose some of the flavor, okay? So make sure like between 2 and 3 centimeters of pieces like that. There you go. For all of you who is already subscribed and supporting the channel, thank you so much for being such a nice support, because it's very important for me. I really love this channel. The format, it's totally different than what I do on Just Shake or Stir. It's not about just the cocktails, mixing quickly something. It's about sharing a passion and trying to teach you something if you want to learn, which is absolutely fantastic. So there we go, we are nearly ready. I'm gonna cut the rest of it, because they will go in a blender for one for the foam, and one is gonna be frozen for the melon soda. I'll see you shortly. Okay, my friends, as you can see, I took the opportunity to cut the watermelon as well. So it's basically the same story. You cut it in slices, then you do it in cubes, and we are ready to vacuum pack this and nearly to go in the sous vide, because my sous vide at the moment it's nearly on 50 Celsius, which is another 10 degrees before it's actually start cooking. We are going to cook for an hour. Hour in a 60 Celsius, it's absolutely enough to help dissolve the sugar and extract enough of the juice from the melons or the watermelon. Also today I want to mention I'm using a caster sugar, so there you go, you can see it. Let me just make sure you label your stuff always to know what you're doing. So I'm using a caster sugar because obviously, as always, I say caster sugar it's dissolved quite quickly, but if you want to use granulated sugar, it's absolutely fine. There's no really any rule here, to be honest with you. First, what I want to do is move this fruit on the side and prepare my bags with a sugar. So for this, we are going to use a scale, and we are going to measure 200 grams of sugar for each of the syrups. Now, you may ask, how did you come up with this number? Well, I've done plenty of time this type of syrup. So a half a melon, both sides it's going, and the watermelon is going, we're looking for around 400 grams of fruit, okay? So if you have to follow precisely, make sure you have around 400 grams to 450 of the fruit and put the half of the weight in sugar. Simple as that. Now, if you end up doing obviously a 1 kilogram of a watermelon or a melon, make sure you put 500 grams of sugar. It's simple as that. I always work this ratio with this type of fruit, 2 to 1, because they're quite nice, have natural sweetness and sugar in them. You don't need that much sugar, but you want obviously to incorporate some sugar, obviously to preserve the syrup for a longer shelf life. So it's nothing wrong. You can play with that. If you think it's too sweet, or if you want to be a less sweeter, obviously go to 150 grams of sugar. It's entirely up to you. But we are going to measure 200 grams of sugar, okay? So I'm going to start with the first one. Just break a little bit. When it's staying in the jar like that, it's always became a little bit moisture. But that's absolutely fine. There you go. First 200 grams of sugar. So what I need now is my bags, and I'm gonna put first the sugar before I actually put the fruit, okay? So do that for all 3 bags. 200 grams of sugar in each, and keep going until you have everything ready. Ooh, we got a little bit excited here. Let me get a few of these rocks. That should do. 220 grams, not a biggie. It's not a rocket science, okay? It's just a lovely syrup you can use if you want to make cocktails, or you just want to have it as it is with a lovely soda or a lemonade or anything. I mean, you use it as you like. Maybe put on the pancakes, on dessert, or anything you want. And it's look like I'm running out of caster sugar, so I'm gonna go grab another extra. And I hear the sound of the sous vide. It's ready, so we are kind of just in time. Let me just get... Bear in mind with the sous vide you can always extend, obviously, the time. So we're saying an hour, roughly. It will be more than enough. That's a soft fruit, so it doesn't need that much cooking, okay? We're nearly done with this messy part. So we're gonna get this away and start with our fruits. First, the watermelon. Now, earlier I mentioned ascorbic acid, which is absolutely optional. Why I'm saying ascorbic acid? Because, first of all, it's not like the citric acid, very citrusy. It's basically vitamin C, okay? It doesn't have that much citrus or acidity to it, but it's helping with preserving a color and also extending a shelf life. So if you're fancy and if you have some ascorbic acid or you want to start using it, I'll suggest get some, because it basically needs very little just to give you this kind of a extra little bit of shelf life and preserve color of any fruit to don't change if it's oxidized. So for example with apples and things like that. Now it's completely optional, okay? Don't worry about it. Right, you see what I did? I put the other pieces which supposed to go for the juice. So I've just realized, I'm like, why they're so big? Anyway, mistake happens, and you see that's a live recording. Nothing is prearranged, so it's gonna be fine. Okay, I'm just gonna chop them a little bit smaller because they're bigger. The blender doesn't really need them too small, but hey. That's what's happened when I have so many things in front of me trying to talk to the camera, and it just things doesn't work very well. Right, we have all 3 bags. Let me clean my hands. We are not going to need this cutting board for now anymore. Just want to mention here, and I'll probably mention it again, but the other half of the watermelon is going to do exactly the same like with these pieces here. We're going to blend it to extract water, which is going to be filtrated for the sodas, and I'm going to be freezing it until I use it. So that's why I didn't cut it yet, because it's exactly the same what we're going to do with the melons. Okay, now we need our sealing bag and the sealing machine. Make sure you give it a good shake to mix the sugar with the fruit, and let's seal it. Now, because some moisture, depends on the machine you're using, you can use option for a moist or a dry. I only seal them. I don't like really to squeeze them too much. I just want to leave some air inside so the sugar can work its magic extracting the juice, okay? Bit noisy. Okay, so all the box is ready. Now make sure you give it a good shake. You want the sugar to go as much possible on the fruit, okay? Do not smash it, do not kind of bruise it. Just make sure the fruit is mixed up with the sugar, all right? This is gonna help, as I mentioned, the sugar to start working the magic of extracting the actual juice from the fruit. So we end up with a wonderful, lovely syrup. And yeah, once you're ready, let's just move these things away because we don't need them now. I'll get the sous vide here. So it's gone to 55 minutes. I'm gonna adjust the time just so it's an hour. And there you go. And I'm gonna put my box inside. Right? There you go. 1, 2, 3. Now what's gonna happen is if you decide to compress these bags more, they will sink on the bottom, which is absolutely fine. But like I say, I prefer to have a little air inside, because halfway through, or maybe a few times, I'm gonna take out the bag, I shake it a little bit because some of the sugar is gonna bond and stay like a rock, just to help melting. And at a certain point, I may do a few pinch on the top just to extract the air, so the water can kind of compress everything and cook it even better. For now, I'm just gonna close it like that. And I'm gonna leave it on the side because you don't need to watch this while it's cooking. I'm gonna reset the stage and we are going to blend the fruit so I can have filtrated for the foam and for the water for future episodes. See you shortly. The sous vide, it's all ready, and as you can see, we have the watermelon here, we have the honeydew melon, and of course we have the Galia melon. Now, just to explain, there's 2 options here. If you want just the clear syrup, what you can do is basically strain the syrup through a fine sieve and you are done for bottling. And that's what I want from this syrup, okay? But if you want to extract more flavor from the fruit and you're not bothered about being a little bit cloudy, you can blend the whole fruit as it is with the syrup and then go through a cheesecloth or a coffee filter, strain a little bit of the solids away and just bottle it this way. In my case, I like them to be clear because I have some plans to do some clear cocktails, so I don't need any of the cloudiness. However, as I say, it's entirely up to you. So, before I strain this to a bottle, the syrup, because that's fairly easy, we're gonna do quickly the watermelon water, the honeydew water, and of course the water from the Galia melon, which is gonna be turned to a foam. So all you need to do for this, it's a blender. As simple as that, any blender you have. And I've cut my watermelon, but I think I cut too much. However, I will vacuum pack it again in a bag and I will freeze the water so I can use it for a future episode when we're gonna make the actual sodas. Okay, so simple as that. The procedure is exactly the same for all three. So you put like a big cubes, depends obviously of your blender. Now if the blender you're using it's small, it's not that powerful, don't overload it, okay? In my case, I know my blender, it's very powerful, it's absolutely gonna go through this like a breeze. So I'm just gonna go and get a blend all straight away. As I mentioned, the blender I'm using, I don't know, I'm not sure if they still making these blenders anymore, Ninja, but they're fantastic because as you can see, you have separate the actual base, which you can use as a jug, and the motor is on the top. So it's simple as that. I need a towel and just give it a quick blend, okay? Aye, that should be absolutely fine. Leave the motor on the side. Leave this as well on the side. And we have a lovely water. So what you can do with this blender, that's what I like it. I can just remove the actual knives, put them on the side for using it after with the melons. So now the next step is just to remove as much of the solids we can. So what you're gonna do, put a sieve, preferably big sieve, and have a piece of cheesecloth or like a milk bag or anything which it's fine, but good enough to put, obviously, to give chance to the liquid to go through it and stop the solids. So we're gonna pour our melon inside, gently, give it a chance. If you can see on the bottom, it's already, the juice is separating from the solids. I'm gonna leave this for a moment and I'll go just wash quickly my blender so it's ready for the melons. Okay, I'll leave the watermelon on the side. I will help her after and I'll show you what to do. But while I'm waiting for the watermelon to get ready and being ready for me to squeeze it, to give it a final squeeze, I will do the melons. Okay, so we're doing exactly the same with the melons. This is the Galia melon. I'm gonna put the whole thing inside straight away. Get the top and just give it a quick blend. Okay, that's beautiful. And if it's one thing I'm really grateful that somebody invented, this is this spatula. You know what I mean? These the silicone things. They're absolutely amazing to clean equipment, to make sure you don't miss any of the ingredients. So if you don't have one of those home, I suggest strongly to invest in one because no matter what you do, trust me, this is gonna save you a lot of time and energy, and most important, you won't lose so much of the ingredients which you make because it's just brilliant. And this time I'm not gonna use the cheesecloth. Now the melon, it's a little bit more kind of the texture, it's more thick than the watermelon. So we're gonna go straight directly with the sieve. Wonderful. And just leave it on the side to do his jobs as well, okay? And let's do the final one and we are done with all the waters we need. And this is the Honeydew melon. Fabulous. Right? Cover. Clean up the surface of your blender. Depends what you're using. And let's blend. Okay, we are done of blending. Now the Honeydew melon, it's a little bit more watery. Even doesn't look like when you cut in it. Maybe it's a little bit harder. It's have a little bit more water. It's just a bigger melon, so it's contain more water inside. What I'm gonna do, another method, just to show you if you don't have a sieve around, just get your cheesecloth and pour everything in, okay? Make sure you keep the sides of the cheesecloth up because you're gonna do some work here. Okay, once you pour the whole liquid inside, there you go. Take the blades out. Get my little helper, the beautiful spatula. There you go, we are all ready. You can put this away. Now you're gonna get the cheesecloth, collect all of the corners. Make sure nothing drops in. If it drops, don't worry about it because we're gonna use coffee filter after anyway. And just slowly start squeezing the juice, you see? Now this is a patient job. Obviously there's no rush because it's a lot of solids inside, so you gotta give it a little nice squeeze, and do this exactly the same procedure with the watermelon cheesecloth, and of course you can do the same with the actual Galia melon. So no matter what you decide, are you gonna decide to use just cheesecloth or you're gonna decide to use sieve, you have to try to remove as much of the solids possible before we run this water through a coffee filters, okay? So I'm gonna do all that and I'll be back with the coffee filters. Okay, my lovely friends, I squeeze as much as I can. This is the watermelon. Obviously the watermelon has lots of water, so there's no surprises. The honeydew, it's pretty much like a little bit under the half of this pot, and the actual Galia, it didn't give that much juice, but I expect that because it wasn't ripe, like fully ripe, to give more water, which is absolutely fine. What you can do if it doesn't give you enough water, you can use the fruit from the syrup after you obviously decant the syrup and leave only the fruit. If you want to add a little bit of sweetness to the melon, which is absolutely fine because I'm going to use this for a foam. But if you keep as a water or just as it is, just leave it as much you have. Obviously the best solution is to have a proper kind of a ripe melon. Mine it was probably a few days out of being fully ripe, but you never know. When you pick from the shop you think it's perfect, and then if you leave it too long it may go off. So we're just gonna go with what we have. And now is the last process of the actual idea here, saving the water. So I'm gonna start with this one first. Now, coffee filters. I don't know what kind of coffee filters you use, and it took me ages to figure out what to use, but finally I got this one, which it's basically they're more like industrial coffee filters for a big machines, you know what I mean? But the thickness of this filter is perfect because it's giving enough space to the liquid to go fast, and also it's strong enough so if you need to squeeze a little bit to give them a push, so you don't waste your time waiting, it's working perfect. So I'm gonna start here. They're quite huge, but that doesn't mean you have to use the whole thing, okay? So just so you can see on the camera, I'm gonna keep the front not bent, and I'm gonna start with the Galia. This is like a last filtration. It's gonna stop any small kind of a bits. Of course, it's not gonna be completely clear. If you wanna make it completely clear, you're gonna have to go through an agar clarification, and obviously to make a little bit like a gelatin, then clarify. But that's not the point here. We're making home ingredients. I'm gonna make a foam from this, so I don't need to be clear. And the rest of them I'm gonna make sodas, homemade sodas. So I don't expect them to be completely clear like when you buy from the store, but it's gonna be 100% natural. So there you go. Like I say, just to show you with these filters, first of all, because they're really strong, you can just gently squeeze them. And they look so nice. They just going through, nothing go through, everything stay inside. As I say before, with the cheesecloth and the sieve, you're gonna stop most of the pulp anyway, so you're not gonna have that much trouble doing the final kind of a touch clarification. But there you go, that's done. And I'm gonna leave it on the side, and it's basically the same story with the rest of it. You know how it goes, you just clarify, and once they're clarified, we can basically put them in the vacuum bags and get them ready for freezing. So let's start with the watermelon here. That should fairly go pretty much straightforward. It shouldn't stay much because the cheesecloth is definitely stopped all the seeds, all the pulp which we had from before. So it's definitely, I don't think I'm gonna even need to squeeze this one, but yeah. Right. Just gonna leave it here to do its job and do the last one. As you can see, I'm using different pots, whatever I have home. Ideally, I want to buy everything to be exactly nice and same, but slowly the channel growing. Hopefully this is gonna be possible and I'm gonna have everything nice in place for you. And let's do the honeydew melon. This could have a little bit more time because by mistake I dropped some of the pulp inside, not much, but because it's lighter the pulp than the juice, it's floating on the top, so it's gonna drop last in the actual filter, so it won't be that bad. I'm gonna do as much as I can first. It's going nicely anyway down. Right, there we go. So let's help the watermelon a little bit. Just a gentle squeeze. Perfect. Again, as I say, if you want to clarify everything absolutely perfect, the best things here to do is to use agar-agar or a gelatin and to make it this way. But I'm planning a video on clarification, which we're going to go through the different type of clarification, so you have the idea which one is better, for what to use it and how to use it. So stick around, make sure you subscribe, and we're going to do some clarification. So we may do again watermelon juice and compare being with coffee filter only or after it's clarified. It should be absolutely spot on clear. There we go, the honeydew. What did I say before? The honeydew have lots of water inside compared to the Galia melon. Look how much we have here. That is fantastic. But this is why I'm going to use the Galia juice for a foam, because that's the idea. It doesn't give that much water. And these two, they're going to go for homemade sodas. Even now, when you have the juice, you can just mix it with the syrup, with the sugar, and you can have a really quick cold sugar syrup made straight away. But if you do this way, make sure you use it in about 2-3 days time, because obviously you don't want to go off. It's not being cooked, it will go off quicker. Right, let me reset very quickly and we're gonna bottle everything and we are done. Okay, boys and girls, final stages here. As you can see, I have 3 bottles in front of me. This is for my syrups, but what I'm gonna do, I will mention it again. If you want to have the fruit inside and you don't mind having cloudy syrup, you can pour all this content into a blender, yeah, and blend it, and just you're gonna have syrup like that. For me, I'd like to have clear syrup, so what I'm gonna do, first one, funnel, and then inside just a fine mesh, just to stop any break fruits if they come obviously through, because no matter what you do, there will be some pieces. And we're gonna start with the honey, with the honeydew syrup. Very slowly and gently. I sterilize the bottles in advance, just so you know, you have to sterilize these bottles. If you have some small bits fell through the sieve, that's absolutely fine. Remember, it's homemade syrup, yeah? If you want completely clear, obviously you don't need to make anything at home, just go buy from the shop, but it's never gonna be exactly perfect like you make in a home, because the home one, it's always the best, no matter what. There we go. Don't squeeze the fruit, don't do anything like that. Just leave the gravitation to do the job. Put it on the side because we're gonna vacuum after. And here we go. First one is ready for us. These bottles to the neck here, it's 350 ml. So you see, you get 350 ml of the half a melon, which is more than enough syrup. So I don't know, if you're doing it for a bar where you're planning to serve cocktails with this type of syrup, obviously you may have to adjust your ratio. But in general, if you're doing it for home, 350 ml is more than enough. Depends what you're planning to do. I don't know if you're having a big pool party or something. Right, now we're gonna do the Galia. The Galia is gonna be less, definitely. Even if it's the same amount of sugar, it won't be the same amount of water inside in the actual fruit, but that's absolutely fine. We're gonna get what we can. It's absolutely fine by me. And together as well, you can combine both because they're pretty much similar when it's come to a syrup. There won't be much like a huge difference in the flavor, okay? There won't be. And finally, I'm not gonna even clean anything. We're gonna go to the watermelon. And there we go. Slowly. This, as you can imagine, is gonna be more than what I can fit in the bottle, but I will fit what I can, and the rest of it may go in a small jar, obviously. In this case here, I don't need the fruit at all, so I'm not gonna be closing it. This fruit is gonna be discarded, or maybe eaten, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I definitely don't plan to save this fruit, but we'll see. It could be, oh look at that, I think it may be just perfect like the Honeydew. It may just do wonderful 350 ml, wonderful. Sometimes you can expect the watermelon to have more because at the end of the day it's a watermelon. That's why it's called watermelon, because it's contained a lot of water, you see? I'm gonna stop here because I don't wanna overload this bottle. So this fruit, it's entirely up to you if you want to eat it, discard it. All I'm gonna save is the melon. So let me just rearrange a little bit here. So we have the Honeydew, the Galia, and the watermelon syrups absolutely ready. I'm just gonna give a quick seal of this before I finish and move to the foam. Right, Galia is ready. And this is pretty much, my friends, I'm gonna do the same with the waters. Of course, you don't need to watch vacuuming the waters, but it's the same. Vacuum the water, put it in the fridge, and use it for syrups in future if you want, cooking, drinking, or making foams, whatever you decide. It's there for you to use it. Just don't leave it in the freezer forever, okay? A month, maybe, it's fine, but don't leave it forever because you don't want to. Also, maybe if you want to experiment, try the cryo freezing like we did with the grape here on the channel. Freeze it, then defrost it and extract just the flavor, discarding the water from the fruit, so you have concentrate melon, watermelon. And you can use it for making some lovely cocktails or cakes or whatever you decide. I'm gonna clean up everything now, and we're gonna go to the last part of the video where we're gonna create a wonderful foam from the Galia melon, because soon on Just Shake or Stir it's coming a new take on the Midori sour, which I've been working on, and I can't wait to share with you, so I hope you'll check that. But I'll see you shortly, soon I reset. Okay, my lovely friends, this is the kind of an extra bonus to the video. If you're not interested in the foam, no worries at all, but I just wanted to show you something apart from just the syrups, just to give you an idea that you can use this melon in few different things. I mean, there's plenty of other things to use it for, but we'll just stick one or two at a time, okay? I'm not gonna give you that much information. So for this foam, you're gonna need just 3 ingredients. Obviously, let me just put this on the side for now because we will use it anyway. So you're gonna need your melon water or any water, watermelon or whatever you decide to turn to a foam. And instead of using soy lecithin or anything else, we're gonna use today xanthan gum, and we're gonna use agar-agar, which is obviously the vegetarian version of the gelatin. And in general, between 0.5% to 1%, it's for more lighter foam to use with the agar-agar. If you go to 2%, it can become really strong as a gelatin. When I'm saying 0.51 or 2%, that's the percentage of the weight of the actual liquid which you're trying to turn to a jelly, or a kind of a sort of jelly. So for this, we're gonna measure. Now, basically grams and milliliters, it's pretty much the same, but in this case, because we are cooking kind of a stuff, we're gonna go with the grams. So I'm gonna measure the juice, which at the moment it's 150 milliliter. So it should give us, yeah, 152 grams. That's the exact. So 1.5 gram of agar-agar, it will be absolutely fine if you want to keep the foam more like a light and not too thick, because making it too thick for a cocktails, it's not going to work that good. Obviously, if you make this foam and you want to use it on top of the food, that's totally different. You can go with around 3 grams of agar-agar and it'll be absolutely fine. But we want to keep a little bit more lighter. So I'm going to remove this on the side. We know it's 150 grams. We don't need any more. And this is where I need my micro scale. I always say you're going to have to buy one of these if you want to do these things, because the big one never going to catch 1.5 gram of agar-agar. Now, when it comes to the xanthan gum, we're just going to use it to make this foam a little bit more thick and foamy. If that, it's actually a way to describe it, but that's how I describe it, and I hope you understand me. So we're going to start with the agar-agar, and we're going to add 1.5 grams. So be precise here. Don't overload things, because it's really here it's coming to precision, okay? Okay, just a touch more. I'm on 1.42, 1.52. Ooh, that's perfect. We had a 152 grams of the melon water, so 1 gram 52 of the agar-agar. So I'm gonna add this to the mix, and first of all, I'm gonna put the mix in this little pot, because to activate the agar-agar, we need to give it a little heat, yeah? So first this going there. Regarding the xanthan gum, 1 gram, it will be absolutely enough for the purpose of what I wanna do here. It's basically, I work on the ratio again like the agar-agar, but you need to be careful, because if you put too much, it's going to get too thick and could also bring extra sweetness to whatever you're doing. Now in this case, we're doing the melon, which I don't mind at all to have a little bit extra sweetness in the foam, because it's just the water, we didn't put any extra sugar, so any extra sweetness to the foam, it's welcome, but we don't want to be over sweet, because I'm going to use it for a cocktail which it's already have some sweetness, and I don't want both of them to clash together. Okay, now before I put the xanthan gum, I'm going to get this agar-agar to get a little bit warm up. Okay, time to switch on, and I need temperature. Right, okie dokie. So in order, obviously, to activate the agar-agar, you need to stir it nicely and you need to warm it up. Simple as that. You don't need to boil it. Don't go crazy boiling it. Just want to warm up. And the same story, we're gonna put, soon it's warm up. There you go. It's very quick because we don't using much quantity of it. That's it. I'm gonna switch it off and I'm gonna add my xanthan gum here. Now in some cases, adding the xanthan gum in advance when it's cold is better. But if you're using a big quantity, you can use blender here. It's a little bit difficult. So I'm just gonna go with my spoon and mix it really quick. But then I'm gonna help myself with this little gadget here. You probably know it more like to make frappes and things like that, which is absolutely fantastic. It's beautiful for that. I'm just gonna use it here really quick. I probably should have put the top view because you can see straight away the foam, but I'll show you anyway. You just stir this off, making too much noise for nothing. We've done with this, so I can put on the side. But this is it, my lovely friends, your foam is ready. There you go. Let me just show you what we came up with. Look at that now. It's a proper foam, okay? So you have two options here, and it's entirely up to you what you're gonna do with it. I wanted to show you the more complicated version, but then I realized, what's the point? We will do it at some point, definitely, but I don't want to overcomplicate today the things. So if you make a little bit more, let's say around 400 ml of this foam, you can put in an icy press, charge it with a CO2, and you're gonna have more airy foam, because obviously you're gonna introduce CO2 inside, it's gonna become more lighter. In my case, what I do, I put this in the fridge to cool down, and then when I want to use it, I use again the same little mixer just to break it up a little bit, because obviously the agar-agar is going to try to bond it, make it more like a jelly. And then with a spoon, you can just simply serve it on top of your cocktail. See? That's a proper foam. And it's a little bit heavier at the moment because obviously I'm going to use it as it is, but it's light enough to stay on top of the cocktail. If I put in icy press and charge it with a CO2, with a cartridge, it's going to become even lighter and it's going to expand a little bit more. So it's entirely up to you how you want to use it. If you want to try an experiment, let me know down in the comments how it goes. But I'm going to leave as it is because that's what I want for the cocktail, which I'm going to make on Just Shake or Stir, which is another take on the Midori Sour. So yeah, and this is it from me for this week. I hope it's not too much information. I hope you enjoy. I hope you're going to subscribe and keep supporting the channel. Save the video, always can come back to it to certain steps. It's not rushed to watch everything in once. And of course, use all these techniques to use for different type of waters or syrups, foams. Just check any of the videos. It's absolutely fine because you can just experiment at home. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video with some, as I mentioned, sodas, ginger beers, fermentation. Who knows? There will be some kind of a fizzy goodness. Okay, until then, stay safe and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.